A wise man once said the Mazda Miata is not the affordable entry sports car that it used to be, and by wise man, I mean me. I said that's the title of one of my articles on MotorBiscuit.com. But it really is true. You used to be able to buy a Miata for like $800 in a 6-pack, but you cannot do that anymore. Super clean NA Miatas are fetching well above $10,000, and it seems like even the most beat examples are selling for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for whatever reason. And I've had 4 Miatas and I love them, but never, ever would I consider paying that price for a first generation Mazda Miata. In fact, there are a handful of things that I would prefer to buy at $5,000 or less in the sports car market. Maybe they won't handle quite like a Miata on rails, but you certainly can get more modern and faster in a straight line, at least. At any rate, let's talk about 5 awesome sports cars that you can buy right now for under $5,000. And I am starting with the Infiniti G35. I understand that's a little bit of a hot take, right? Because the obvious answer is the 350Z, and those in the know that a G35 shares a platform with the 350Z, and the 350Z is much more of a sports car than a G35 is, but hear me out for just a second here. You can pretty routinely find manual G35 coupes and sedans for under $5,000 and sometimes a lot less. Even recently on Facebook Marketplace, I've been seeing them for under $3,000 with a manual transmission. And Z's are kind of having a moment right now, price-wise. The great thing about it sharing platform with the 350Z is that almost all of the parts in terms of suspension crossover, as well as a whole bunch of other components, which means a lot of the amazing aftermarket support that you have for a 350Z will also work for a G35. Intake manifolds, tunes, off-the-shelf this, off-the-shelf that, coilovers, whatever you want, it's pretty much identical and the parts are interchangeable. Not only that, but a G35 with proper suspension setup is a pretty good car when it comes to handling and an amazing car when it comes to drifting. Ask me how I know. Next up, the BMW 3 Series, specifically the E36 and E46 generations. Now, you can pretty easily find E90 cars for under $5,000 right now, but generally they're 328s and you don't want that in your life. However, E36, 325, and 328 cars, as well as E46, 325, and 330 cars are pretty routinely available for less than $5,000, and they come in all sorts of flavors. You want a convertible? Done. You want an automatic? Don't do that. You want a manual though? Pretty readily available, and there is an almost unlimited supply of aftermarket support for the E36 and E46 chassis, just like many other performance sports cars. What's great about these chassis is the fact that they're BMW and they have that iconic 50-50 weight distribution that kind of seems to just be applied to every BMW. I don't really know if it's true, but I can tell you, having owned 2 E36s, that they do handle very well, and the aftermarket support is awesome. And again, I drive drift cars. If you want to drift, my God, what an amazing entry into it, but doesn't really matter what discipline you want to do, whether you're racing, drifting, or driving to McDonald's, an E36 or E46 is going to make sure you have fun while you do it. This one's going to be a little bit of a hot take, but the SN95 Ford Mustang GT, you can get it in pre-facelift, that is just known as SN95, or the facelift version, the new Edge, which is also an SN95. Don't fight me about that. It still says it on the chassis code. Awesome cars. 225, 250 horsepower, somewhere in that range with the V8 GT models. 5-speed manual transmission, the Borg Warner T5, world-class, great transmission, and it is a Mustang, so there is virtually unlimited aftermarket support for it as well. But even if you don't have anything done to it, it is such a phenomenal feeling to be driving a manual car and just rev match downshift all on your own with a V8 up front. It doesn't matter that it's a 200 horsepower V8 and it's not the fastest V8 on the road. It's just the sound, and it's really a visceral experience. And guess what? They make good drift cars. I had one of those too. There is a lot more aftermarket support in terms of drifting than there was when I had mine. It was quite expensive to set up for drifting when I had it, but if drifting's not your thing, There are tons and tons of aftermarket support for drag racing, obviously, it's a Ford Mustang, and for circuit racing. One of the most popular things people do with the new Edge car is the IRS swap from the Cobra, so you have true independent rear suspension. They actually do really, really well in autocross or your local club racing. It is worth noting though that $5,000 is maybe kind of pushing it if you want a really nice GT model. And speaking of pushing the budget and entirely defeating the purpose of this entire video, our next car is the Porsche 986 Boxster. All right, I know, listen, the whole thing about the beginning with how you have to buy a beat Miata if you want it for $5,000 is the exact same thing with the 986 Boxster. I get that. You probably can't get a Boxster S. It's gonna be a base model, but a manual 986 Boxster for $5,000 or less is possible, and it does happen fairly routinely. Just, you know, they're not gonna be the nicest examples, but come on. At least you can say you own a Porsche. You'd be the laughing stock of everybody, but like, as a former 944 owner, I can tell you it gets worse. The Boxster is a little bit different from these other cars in that it doesn't have like this crazy aftermarket support. It has some, of course, but it's not like, well, it's different to me because it's not a drift car platform, but they do already out of the box handle amazing. People just take them straight to autocross completely stock. Watch out for the IMS bearing issue. If you're not familiar with that, check out the link in the description to the MotorBiscuit article explaining exactly what that is. It plagues 986 Boxsters and 996 and early 997 Porsche 911s. But at this point, a lot of 986, 996, and early 997 cars have already had those repairs. So if you're shopping for one, it's a big plus if that's already been done. And the final recommendation for this list, the Bug Eye or Blob Eye Subaru WRX. And I'm gonna have to throw a bit of an asterisk at this one because we all know how temperamental the WRX can be. The thing is, a lot of people equate all of these issues across the WRX brand, but really the big head gasket failure contenders are STIs because it's the same engine block just punched out to 2.5 versus 2.0. So there's not a lot of room between the end of the cylinder and the end of the block. That's right where the head gaskets blow. The EJ20 though, pretty reliable. You have to take good care of it, and the big issue with that is when you're buying a used WRX, especially one that's 20 years old and under $5,000, there's a really, really high chance there's a 16 to 18-year-old kid just beating the crap out of it and neglecting it and not doing oil changes. So you gotta be really, really careful when you're shopping for one, but they do come up every once in a while for under $5,000, and I really wanted to hate the WRX. I really, really did. I wanted to buy one, I couldn't afford it, so I bought an Audi A4 because it was also turbo and manual, and I'm a Volkswagen nerd, and I love the Audi, and kind of grew this internal hatred for the WRX. I don't like Boxster engines, that's stupid unless it's a Porsche. Why would I want that? And then I drove one. I drove my friends, and I want one now. They're so fun, they're so good, and yeah, highly recommended if you're looking for a car under $5 grand. Like I said, just shop carefully, or you can go all out, turn it into a rally car, and take it to McDonald's. We did that. We took a rally car to McDonald's. Go watch that video in the top right corner. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, 5 affordable sports cars you can get for $5,000 or less instead of a beat old crusty NA Miata. But if you still choose to go with a beat old crusty NA Miata, you have my respect and admiration. I'm right there with you. Tell us what your favorite sub $5,000 sports car is in the comments below, and what do you think of our list? Did we nail it? Did we get it wrong? Just let your voice be heard. My name is Braden. Thank you so much for tuning into another MotorBiscuit video. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at MotorBiscuitOfficial and press the subscribe button to keep up with all of our automotive video releases. And for all sorts of automotive news and stories, visit us at MotorBiscuit.com. I will see you next time.